So far, I've reviewed 37 NES games, and a lot of those were sports games. As a result, you'd think it would be easy for me to review volleyball, but unfortunately, it's a game about a sport that I know absolutely nothing about. I knew it was about hitting a ball over a net, but that's it. I didn't know any of the other rules. I have to say, this game did not make a good first impression of the sport. There were a lot of things about the entire experience that I found very obtuse and annoying, and it's a real shame because this game is very impressive visually. I liked the title screen, it was simple, but it worked. And I have to say the selection screen definitely caught my attention. First off, you get a choice between women and men's teams. I recorded 2 games, the first being a women's game and the second being a men's. The gender of the players you decide actually determines the ball speed, with women's being slower and men's being faster. When you get to the team you want to play as, though, you'll notice you can only pick the USA. However, you do get to choose which opponent you're going up against. You have 7 opponents to pick from, with those being the Soviet Union, China, Cuba, Japan, Brazil, South Korea, and Tunisia. This seems like a very random list of countries, but there is actually a point. The opponent selection turns out to be a disguised difficulty selection. Besides the US, the other 7 teams are in order of their performance in the last 2 World Cups. Oh yeah, volleyball has World Cups apparently. You know, when I started this video, I didn't think it would be one of those learning videos for me to make, but here we are. The thing I'm most confused about with this entire thing is how the communists got so good at volleyball. As you can see, this is an indoor volleyball game, and the volleyball court, is it a court? Is that what it's called? Okay, yeah, it's called a court, I was right. It's kind of isometric, except not really. In this game, you get a side view of the court as opposed to tennis, which is vertical. I really appreciate this because a volleyball net is much higher than a tennis net, and you need a better view of the vertical side of things. The net is tilted a tiny bit diagonal, I'd say maybe like 10 degrees eyeballing it. I'm not pulling out a protractor for this. If you really care how much the net is tilted in this almost 40-year-old game, pull out a protractor yourself. The side view also means that 2 players can play, something that I complained about a lot in my tennis video. I like the court design. The outside being blue is a little weird, but it fits. Kind of makes the inside of the court feel like an island in the middle of the ocean. I like the little animations of the line judge and the ball boys. You know, they're probably not ball boys, they might just be extra referees, but I have no idea. The crowd is varied and animated, and its level of detail lower to show it being farther than the referees. And most surprisingly to me, the scoreboard actually exists diegetically in the game world. That is impressive and probably took a lot more effort. Most impressively, the pause button actually gives you a timeout, and fitting in with the timeout actually existing in the game world, it only works in the time between plays. The attention to detail that this game shows far outmatches the NES launch titles, showing that Nintendo's knowledge of how their console worked kept increasing over the years. Unfortunately, the nice things I have to say stop now. While this game is nice to look at, playing it is an entirely different story altogether. What you've been watching was my second attempt at playing this game, and if you've been paying attention to the footage, you've probably noticed that I am absolutely terrible at it. I will admit this is probably just a me thing, but for some reason I just couldn't understand how to play this game. That's not to say the controls are bad, far from it. They feel very fluid, and they make a lot of sense. It's more so that the rules of volleyball are very hard to remember for me for whatever reason. So the way it works is that A hits the ball up in the air and B spikes it. The spike is very difficult to do because you have to line up perfectly with the shadow. Not only that, but you have to be holding the button for a while before the ball gets to you. If you're half a second late, then the ball will just phase through you. The manual says that you can do different kinds of shots depending on which direction on the D-pad you're holding when you hit the ball. But the thing is, even when playing as the women's team when the ball is slower, I was never able to get to the ball fast enough to even think about putting in a directional input. That's really my main problem with this game. Clearly a lot of effort went into programming the game for all the different moves, but I am just not fast enough to use them. And believe me, I tried very hard for hours. On top of all that, the other player's serve is just too fast for me to hit. I can only ever hit it back when it goes directly to one of my players. if it doesn't go straight to one of them. And that split second of trying to decide which player to move is just too long. On top of that, spikes are basically impossible to hit back even though you do have the ability to block, but I never managed to do it. Sometimes the game just won't let you hit the ball back even if you use 3 different players. Sometimes you'll be standing perfectly in place for a hit and nothing will happen. And although I did get better at it as I kept playing, I still felt like the game was way too demanding. Lastly, I have a huge complaint towards whoever designed volleyball as a sport. Why is it that you can only score when you're serving? That makes genuinely no sense whatsoever. The only sport I can think of that does that is pickleball. And that barely even counts because anyone who considers pickleball to be a real sport should be ashamed of themselves. I mean, that's like saying curling is a real sport. I just can't take you seriously when you say that. Anyway, it's idiotic in pickleball and it's idiotic here. The scoring system where you only score a point whenever you win on your serve is called side-out scoring. And they stopped using it in volleyball in 1999 because it's stupid and it makes absolutely no sense. As a result, we had successfully abolished side-out scoring for mainstream sports until pickleball came in and ruined everything. Anyway, because this game was released in '87, side-out scoring still exists. Now, I hate side-out scoring because not only does it make the game take way longer than it should, but it is seriously demoralizing to win a point and only win the right to win points. It means that to get up on the scoreboard at all, you have to win twice in a row, which is basically impossible for me. As a result of my wins being massively underreported, the best score I was able to get was 3-15. As it goes without saying, I got absolutely destroyed in both of the matches I played. Now, is the embarrassment at this loss causing me to over-exaggerate my annoyance at this game? Yeah, a little, but I still didn't have fun playing it. This game made me very, very salty. It annoyed me so much because it was so close to being good. I mean, the animations and the design of the game are great, but it's just so fast and it expects so much of you to control 6 players at once to hit a ball that falls very rapidly. If they had brought down the number of players to 2 or 3 and simplified the controls a little bit, this would have been about 10 times better, and I'm also bringing it down 4 or 5 spots just for the way that this game is scored. It annoyed me so much. Although it did impress me, I still have to take its issues into account. It was very impressive, but honestly I would rather just play soccer, golf, or tennis. Because sure, they don't have the fancy graphics, but they're way more fun. It has some of the same problems as baseball, except not to the same extent, so I feel like just below Mega Man 1 is pretty reasonable. Anyway, 5 out of 10, thank you for watching, have a good day, like and subscribe, bye!